RJ Davis did a whole lot in his North Carolina career, but one thing he was never able to do, make 40% of his threes in a single season. Yeah.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch of the day to get your Wednesday going the right way. Welcome into all you everydayers who are here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our great insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel right now. New customers who can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 wins. Go check it all out at FanDuel.com. Coming up on the show today, going to be a lot of fun. We're going to actually follow up what we did yesterday on the show. By the way, if you missed that, go back and watch it. It's the first part of our 6 burning questions in recap, in review, in debrief, whatever you want to call it. There was a show 6 weeks ahead of the season starting. We'll ask 6 burning questions that were going to help define last season. And it's been a really interesting exercise to go back and look at the answers to those questions because they did indeed show why North Carolina had some of the struggles they did. So we did the first 3 of those yesterday. We're going to wrap it up on today's show. So where we look today is the Cade Tyson of it all. Poor guy. It'll be funny when you hear the way I asked that question. You'll understand then. We're going to look at the front court minutes allocation. I was trying to figure out Armando's gone, Harrison's gone. What's it going to mean? It meant a lot of different opportunities at front court. We'll look at that. But we got to start with RJ Davis's inability to finally shoot 40% from 3 for a single season. And so the question that kicks off the back half, the second edition of our 6 burning questions answers is this. Can RJ Davis shoot 40% from 3 for the first time in his career? The answer, as we all know, is no. Spelled differently than as we all know. And I felt foolish. I got to say, I thought for sure, this was the year RJ would do it. He came off of such a great senior season, a great 23-24, where he fell literally 1 3-pointer made shy of hitting 40%. And by the way, sending Carolina to the Elite Eight. But alas, I digress. It felt like it made sense. Everything was culminating in what was going to be this phenomenal year for RJ, where he just went off and followed up his ACC Player of the Year season with another great season. But it just wasn't that. But here's what I love that RJ did do, is he battled through that adversity, some of it mental. We'll talk about that in a second. And eventually wound up, if you remove the first X amount of games, which we'll get to, phenomenal season for RJ. Just took him a while to find it. Marcus Page struggled with that his senior year as well. And as you look back a couple years, RJ's junior year, 22-23 season, he had that finger injury that I to this day maintain that is what really messed up his 3-point shooting that year. When that finger was healed, boy, he was on fire. But when he banged it up again, he struggled some more. Last year, as I said, literally felt just shy of hitting that 40% marker. I still can't believe that didn't happen. And then this year, RJ, self-admittedly from him, talked about feeling like he carried too much of the load, too much of the weight, felt too much of that heaviness on him at the beginning of the season. And that affected his play, the mental side of it. And consequently, things did not start well. But then when RJ was finally like, all right, look, I just got a ball, and he settled in and did that, man, it was great. And he settled into being RJ Davis that we've all come to know and love and anticipate. And that's where he finally was. When this season was all said and done, RJ finished at 35.4% from 3, which, let's take the context out of it of me expecting a 40% season. 35.4% from 3 is very solid. The problem is, based on the rest of the personnel and what they were doing, Carolina really needed RJ to be 5-ish percentage points better. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like all that terribly much. And in fact, had he was 85 of 240 for the season. Had he made 11 more, which is a lot more than last season, last season he just needed to make one more to get to 40%. Had he made 11 more of his attempts this year, that would have made him 96 of 240, which would have been 40%. But had he done so, I really think Carolina, those made threes would have won more games than Carolina did. Consequently, they slide into the NCAA tournament, and we all know where things landed. But to break down what I'm talking about, the part of the season where RJ felt the weight of the world on his shoulders and when he just settled in and balled, check this out. Carolina played 37 games last season. In the first 15 games, RJ Davis, the same RJ Davis that we've seen for his whole career, 30 of 112 from beyond the arc. That's 26.8%. When you hear that, it is a minor miracle that he wound up shooting over 35% for the season. 26.8% in the first 15 games. RJ Davis. Wow. But then in the final 22 games of the season, RJ was 55 of 128. That's 43% over the course of the final 22 games. In those 22 games, he made at least 1 3 in 20 of them, and he made multiple threes in 16 of them. Forgive me, if you're watching on video, my nose is like itching me to death. I'm trying to scratch it, but it won't stop. Ugh. And then you'll also recall Carolina went on that great run down the stretch of the season, starting with the game at Syracuse. Carolina won 6 in a row to set up that game at home on senior night against Duke, lost that game, and then won 2 games in the ACC tournament, lost that frenetic comeback game to Duke in the ACC semis, and then went 1-1 in the NCAA tournament. In the course of those final 12 games, during which Carolina went 9-3, RJ Davis ultimately in that stretch hit 43.2% of his threes. He was 32 of 74. So when you look at that closing 9-3 stretch and see what RJ did, it makes you pine for what could have been had he been RJ Davis in the first 15 games in the season. Where would things have been different? All that said, it is still shocking to me, that in his 5-year career, for as strong a shooter as RJ Davis is, he never hit 40% of his threes in a single season. Came very close multiple times. His freshman year was his worst statistical three-point shooting season, 32.3%. Sophomore year, 36.7%. Junior year, 36.2%. First senior year, 39.8%. And then last year, his super senior year, his COVID year, 35.4%. So all that said, RJ finishes his career as a 36.7% shooter. And I think that's about right. RJ Davis is a 37% three-point shooter. Wildly efficient from the free throw line, the best by percentage in Carolina history, which is insane. But just couldn't ever quite get there. I really just wanted that number for him. I don't know why I locked in on it so hard and so heavy, but I did. And that's one of those things that I'm always going to be bummed about. That Marcus Page and Kennedy Meeks never won a championship. That Marcus Page's shot to tie the game in the national championship is going to be forgotten because of the Chris Jenkins shot. Things like that. It's like, okay, whatever. But RJ Davis not hitting 40% of his threes ever is one of those for me. I don't know. It's just whatever. But that this young man took 977 threes in his career, nearly 1,000 threes, and he made 36.7% of them. That is phenomenal stuff. RJ Davis, we thank you so much for what you did, and I hate it that you never made it to 40%. Now, part of the problem with RJ feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders is that he was trying to pick up the slack for others, including Cade Tyson, who came to North Carolina having never shot less than 40% in his career. And this year, he was pretty far under that. I'm talking closely into the mic for dramatic emphasis. We'll look at Cade's struggles and the way I posed this question originally coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and so much more. Experts, freelance experts who are ready to help take your business to the next level. What Upwork does is gives you as a business flexibility by connecting you with top freelance talent across all sorts of industries, from IT to AI to web development, marketing, you name it. So whether you just need extra hands for a job or a project, or maybe you need a long-term partner, Upwork can make hiring for any of those roles simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you can have multiple qualified candidates to be able to choose from. So instead of hiring full-time all the time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. I really feel like you should go check this out, man. It's great stuff what they do at Upwork. And if you want to look more into it, visit upwork.com right now to post your job for free. Again, that's upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. The second question we want to look at today in our 6 burning questions recap is a question about Cade Tyson. And I've joked already a couple times about the way I framed this question, and you'll see it immediately. But I was so certain that Cade Tyson was going to be a hit, a success, that he was going to be that big wing or big four or small ball four, stretch four if Carolina chose to use him that way, that it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to work. And the way I asked the question was this: what will Cade Tyson's shot distribution look like? Here's why I asked it like that. And I also went on to say, I quoted myself here. I quote, "I'm not concerned about Cade Tyson's 3-point percentage. Why? Because he's never been below 40% in his career." End quote. That's what I said. And no, that was true. I wasn't concerned, and he had never been below 40%. Oh boy, what a frustrating missed evaluation. The reason I framed the question the way I did, what will his shot distribution look like, is because in his 2 years at Belmont, in both of those seasons, he was above 40% from three, but he took more twos than threes in each of those seasons. And so it just added up and made sense. But it didn't. It didn't work. It was funny. On Tuesday, I was texting with Andy Patton, who's my buddy. We co-host Locked On College Basketball together, but he is the host of Locked On Zags. And apparently Gonzaga is looking into Cade Tyson. He was asking like, hey, basically, I think the way he phrased it was, I know Tyson had a dog do of a season, but do you think he could come in and do something? And I was like, Andy, I do. I was hoping that Cade Tyson would stick around for this season, because I truly think that his issues were more mental than physical. Yes, he is not the fleetest of foot. He is not a Seth Trimble level athlete by any stretch of the imagination. But Cade Tyson is a good basketball player. And so my hope was that there was a year two jump where he just settled in, trusted his basketballness, his ability to play basketballness, and just did it, man. Just stopped thinking and played basketball. That's what I expected Cade Tyson in year two in Chapel Hill. But I also understand why he left. I think maybe he thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this thing. And I don't know. I shouldn't put those words in his mouth. I'm just trying to process like what went into Cade's decision. And so Gonzaga and some other schools. And so Andy was basically saying, hey, would he be, at Gonzaga, a good 6th or 7th guy, one of the first couple off the bench? And I was like, I think he would. He has the capability. He's very good. Again, had shot 40% from three both seasons at Belmont. And I know Belmont is not North Carolina, but still, he had good size. The tape was good. So I think he could be good at Gonzaga. He's a high character kid. He'd fit well with Mark Few and everything. But man, the misevaluation, for whatever reason it was, of Cade Tyson really put Carolina behind the 8 ball last year. I think had he been right, similar to what I said about RJ making a couple more threes, had Cade Tyson been right, it changes the calculus of how successful the 24-25 season is for North Carolina. That's just how I feel about that. I wouldn't be surprised if you do too. But because it didn't work, and because Cade just didn't live up to what he did at Belmont, it was a massive part of Carolina's struggles. Think how differently it would have been had he been even able to replicate a modicum of what he did at Belmont. It would have taken pressure off of RJ. It would have allowed Carolina a bunch of different lineup combos that they weren't able to utilize because Cade wasn't playable a lot of the season. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. I don't say that to bash on him. I just say it as fact. You look at, had Carolina, let's say, remember it was Cade Tyson and Kobe Brea, the Dayton transfer that we were looking at and ultimately landed Tyson. Brea ends up at Kentucky. Had Carolina landed Kobe Brea and not Cade Tyson, listen to what he did at Kentucky last year. Brea, 93 of 214 from three. That's basically like what we were talking about. We hoped RJ would have done. That's 43.5% from three. He was 54 of 99 from two. 50, which is 54.5%. He didn't take a ton of free throws, but when he did, did he knock them down? He took 35 and he made 32 of them. That's 91.4%, 11.6 points a game, 28 minutes per game played, and he started 16 of Kentucky's game. Cade, on the other hand, 29.2% from the three-point line on 14 of 48 shooting. Not even a ton of attempts. Good grief. Again, 29.2 to Brea's 43.5. He did actually shoot a good percentage from 62.5%, 15 of 24, which was better than Brea's, but it doesn't outweigh the three-point shooting. And Cade struggled at the free throw line. Again, small sample size, so you can't put too much stock in it, but he was only 9 of 16. That's 56.3%. Averaged 2.6 points a game to Brea's 11.6, 7.9 minutes a game to Brea's 28, started 0 games to Brea's 16. And I just make that comparison because Brea was the other guy that we were really like, hey, let's get this dude. And so Cade's inability to step up to the plate or to the three-point line, as it were, hurt Carolina in a big way. He was a critical piece of what I think Carolina identified as somebody that was going to be really, really strong for this year. So, moving forward, again, I hoped that Cade would stay and find his spot. It's not to be. So now my hope is that he can find a good landing spot and get back to being the version of him that we saw at Belmont. Yes, I know it's frustrating that players aren't always able to live up to expectations. I know it's frustrating that people leave, but it's the lay of the land now. And so I've just personally chosen, I'm cheering for these guys when they go off to other places. I want Cade to be successful this year. I really hope that he is wherever it is that he winds up landing because he is a Tar Heel. Cade Tyson, Tar Heel. It's true. Now, I just hope it's not somebody that has to play Carolina and then he burns them for, a 7 3-pointer game or something like that. That would be very frustrating. But best of luck to Cade Tyson. I hate that it didn't work out, but it's a lesson for next year of why you've got to continue to put your eggs in a bunch of baskets because you don't know who's going to hit and who's not. For a lot of the season, Ven-Allen Lubin seemed, he was like, yeah, he's fine. And then the closing 12, 13 game stretch, he was really good for North Carolina. And that's the thing is you just don't get that progression with these guys. And man, that makes it tough. They just don't have enough time, enough years. I wish Ven was staying, man. I would love to see him most likely be the backup to Henry Vasar, but battle him for that 5 position. That's tough. So best of luck to Cade. Hate that it didn't work. Now, we knew going into the 24-25 season, spoiler alert, there was going to be no Armando Bacot and no Harrison Ingram. So things were going to look necessarily different by definition in the front court. And unfortunately, it was 25 games into the season before Coach Davis and the staff finally found out what that front court combination was that was going to put Carolina in their best position to win. We'll break all of that down coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the NFL playoffs are in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and also can't miss moments you want to be a part of. Good grief. Tuesday night, Haliburton. Oh my word. Crazy stuff for the Pacers. So whether it's a game-winning shot like that, maybe a breakout player in the playoffs, there's never been a better time to get in on that action than right now. And FanDuel makes it really easy for you to stay in the game. You can do it before tip-off. You can do it live, whatever your heart's content is. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, whatever. Fans like you and I have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. How about tonight's NBA games? There's 2 of them. Knicks at the Celtics. C's favorite at home, -10.5. Nuggets at the Thunder in OKC. That game is Thunder -11. No close lines, but I'll tell you this. The favorites have not been winning so far. So just keep that in mind if you're getting in on this action. And if you're new to FanDuel, well, that's the perfect time to sign up. Head on over to FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So go ahead, make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, the sixth and final question of the 6 burning questions series from last season, 6 weeks out of the season. I asked these questions and now we answer them. And the final question is this: how will the coaching staff allocate the front court minutes? I asked a whole bunch of questions as I was setting that up. Things like, hey, you could see a traditional small forward play the 4, like Cade Tyson or Drake Powell. We saw some of both of that. More Drake Powell, obviously, than Cade Tyson, as per our last conversation. I said you could see Wash play 25 to 30 minutes at the 5, plus some combo of Cade and Drake Powell. I said you could see the Jalen's together. I asked, where will Ven-Allen Lubin play his minutes, meaning at the 4 or the 5, and who will he be paired with? I said you can see a more traditional 4, like a Jae'lyn Withers or a Ven-Allen Lubin, or would you see the bulk of the minutes be Drake Powell or Cade Tyson? So those were like all the questions I asked underneath of how is the staff going to allocate the front court minutes? Of those sub questions I asked, you saw a little bit of most of them, but a couple of them were key. For example, why was it this way? Well, because as we learned, there was no one answer to the front court mix, right? The hope is pretty early on in the season, you hit on something and you say, that's our front court, man. That's what we need to go with. There just wasn't that for the Tar Heels this year. There just was not. And unfortunately, that comes on the, forgive me, heels of a season in which Harrison Ingram and Armando Bacot were your 2 starters in the front court for 36 of Carolina's 37 games. And the only one they weren't was when Harrison Ingram didn't start because of senior night. So you had that consistency. And then you come to this year, the 24-25 season, and Carolina trotted out a whole bunch of different starting front court combos to see what might stick against the wall. Let me unpackage them for you in game order. The first 7 games of the season, we saw both Jalen's in the starting front court. Jae'lyn Withers at the 4, Jalen Washington at the 5. No dice. It didn't work. Game 8, and game 8 only, was Drake Powell and Jalen Washington. Then games 9 through 12 were Drake Powell and Ven-Allen Lubin. Now we get Lubin in the starting lineup for the first time. Games 13 through 20, we went back to the Drake Powell, Jalen Washington combination. Games 21 through 24 were Ian Jackson and Ven-Allen Lubin. And then finally, game 25 against Clemson, which was a loss on the road at Clemson, but it was the game before the game at Syracuse when the run started, was finally Jae'lyn Withers and Ven-Allen Lubin. A combination that, had you asked me preseason, I would have said there's no way that is Carolina's most capable front court for what this team is. Most or best front court combo to go with what Carolina's personnel is. But they were, and games 25 through 37, that was your starting front court outside of senior night, where Ty Claude mixed in place of Ven-Allen Lubin, but he very quickly rechecked in as the starter. So there you go. That's 6 different opportunities with, I should say 6 movements with 5 different combinations, because you had Drake Powell and Jalen Washington and then had that combo again later. 5 different combinations in the front court. And of all of those, it was Ven-Allen Lubin and it was Jae'lyn Withers that was the best combo. What? I would have probably taken 6 or 7 combos before I would have arrived at that one as like, that's the best one, right? Yeah, crazy stuff. And so really stinks that it took till the final third of the season to find that combo, right? Let's say that combo had been the combo and it worked from the get-go. How much more pressure does that take off of RJ Davis, for example? How much better? Because a big part of what made that successful was the combination that Elliot Cadeau and Ven-Allen Lubin found. That worked really well. Jae'lyn Withers, just being consistent, just being a guy. And hitting like crazy from beyond the arc. If those things had been happening from the beginning of the season, this is a different team. But alas, they didn't. And so Carolina had to sneak in. Maybe the biggest issue with the front court combo and the most broken recordy, if you'll allow me, was the fact that Carolina didn't land a game-changing big in the portal or from international waters or a high school freshman coming in. So they had to make do with what they had, including bringing in Ven-Allen Lubin and Ty Claude, James Brown from high school, etc. And out of all of that, the one that was the biggest letdown, that I hate to say it, but it was like, you could see it coming, man, all along, was I asked as part of this question, could Jalen Washington play 25 to 30 minutes a game at the 5? We'll just leave it at that part of that question. Not even talking about who was at the 4. Why? Because Jalen Washington this season never made it to 30 minutes in any single game. He surpassed 25 minutes just twice in 37 games. One of those two was the I almost said Old Testament game. I've got my Bible scholar hat on tonight. The overtime, the OT game against Boston College, where Carolina needed a minor miracle, multiple minor miracles to pull out that win. And the other game when he had more than 25 minutes was that all-important win at NC State, in which he played a pivotal role. Remember that basket and that block to wrap it up? Great stuff there. But outside of that, Jalen Washington never played 25 plus minutes this season. And with Carolina striking out in bringing more talent in last offseason, Jalen Washington had to be the guy or it wasn't going to work. And he wasn't, so it didn't. Until they found the Jae'lyn Lubin combo, which worked great. And so all of that we bring together to then say, this has to change this year, right? Let's go back to that. The big picture question was, what was the minutes breakdown going to be? A couple things that we learn from last year, because this is both learning from last year, but also looking ahead. Carolina is going to have to be able to hit on what is our best front court combo earlier in the season. The good news is that I think as we sit here and look at it right now on Wednesday, May 7th, I think we got a good idea already of who that is. Most likely, it's Caleb Wilson and it's Henry Versar. Now, I was hoping that you would have a Ven-Allen Lubin behind Versar, and I like that you have Jaren Stevenson either behind Caleb Wilson, starting at the 3, whatever you need to do. There's more possibility there. But I expect, as of today, and who knows what happens, as we start to see the team a little more through summer pickup games, through summer scrimmage, through blue-white scrimmage, if we get to do that again this fall, through the public exhibitions that we get to watch now, we'll have a better idea of the shape of all of that. But right now, I would expect it to be Caleb Wilson and Henry Versar. And so that's good news, right? Because if that works and those guys fit and that's the combination, then you can find that cohesion and that chemistry earlier in this season. Maybe not right out of the gate, but certainly not taking until the final third of the season to do so. So there you go. The answers to our 6 burning questions. It's always a lot of fun to look back on this. In fact, in a couple of weeks, Coach Pat Kilby and I will look back on our bold predictions for the season and see where we were horribly wrong, undoubtedly. I've purposely haven't even looked back yet at what those bold predictions were. So I'm excited to do that and see if there's any hope of things that we got right. But almost without fail, you get those wrong because they're supposed to be bold, right? Great. Thanks so much for being with us here today on the show. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels, do it right now. If you're on YouTube, that's in the lower corner of the screen. Do it on your favorite audio platform. You can find it there as well. If you've not joined us in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, where we're talking Carolina stuff all the time, man, we'd love to have you there. That link is in the show notes. It's free to join. And if you want to go deeper with the show, be a Locked On Tar Heels insider. Chat with me one-on-one every day. It's great stuff. Love to have those insiders and get to hang out with them. That link is also in the show notes. But for now, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow with Coach Rob. It'll be a lot of fun, but until then, peace.